Good morning. Welcome to Billy Coaching Live. It's really a pleasure to be with you today, to start the day with getting inspired with a great guest. So for those who are joining for the first time, don't hesitate to share your comments and questions in the chat. I will be very happy to include them. Yeah. And because we are together with Andre, this is the second time, and I will introduce again Andre for those who are joining only today. So we are in a very, relaxed mode and talking together. Andre has something to share with us. And this is really for an open discussion all together to learn something and to ease our day, okay, to start with good energy. So welcome, Andre.
Thank you. Welcome to all of those that are listening now and in the future.
Excellent. So let me introduce Andre again. So he's the CEO of Genius Life Academy and is expert in finding your magic. I really like this sentence. We all have magic in ourselves, and so he has a unique way to help you to create your own space, your own workplace, and there is also this nice sentence I like to shift from work/work to life slash life balance. Okay, so it's quite a big shift, and we are all eager to have to enjoy fully our life. So we are curious about that. I mean, I'm talking about myself, and I'm sure you are curious about that also. So this is a follow-up interview. So last month, Andre shared about his experience, his life, and also how he came to this work. And today, we wanted to focus specifically on team efficiency and employee engagement. So my first question for you, Andre, this morning. So what is this four-step guide about?
Yeah, so indeed, this is about identifying the genius zones, not only for oneself, but actually in team members. So teams that work for us, if you're managing a team, or of course, if you're in HR or learning development role, then these can be teams within the whole company. And I see the effects on individuals, very strong effects, transformational effects on individuals. But I also see how powerful this is once we can move this methodology into teams and actually start maximizing the time that team members spend in their genius zones. And we'll be talking about that today. And what is the actual methodology, but most importantly, why and what are the outcomes of that methodology?
Okay, so it's really applying what you do at the individual level to expand it and to enrich, at the team level. Okay.
Exactly. Have a collective experience and understanding of genius zones. Employees, if they implement genius zones on their selves within a company, it has strong effect on them. But actually, there's a multiplying effect when we can implement this within a team because one, everybody understands the concept, and everybody wants to pull each other and encourage each other. And then if Christine, you and I work in the same team, if I can exchange one zone of excellence with your zone of excellence too, then actually we both spend much more time in our zones of genius. And this actually has a multiplying effect very quickly.
So does it feel right to say that then we access the team genius zone? Is it what you mean?
So the team itself accesses their genius zones. So that's a very good point. There's actually two levels. One, there's the individuals within the team then, of course, spend more time in their genius zones. But the persona of the team itself actually also accesses their genius zones. And I really like that approach, indeed. And we'll see actually immediately from the inside within the team, there's strong effects, but actually also around the team, those working with the team, the stakeholders of the team. It can be interfaces in other parts of the company. It can be clients that interface with the team. They also immediately notice a difference.
Okay, so that sounds really interesting because my experience working with teams, facilitating and coaching teams, is they often have, they struggle with their positioning in the company. Okay, so defining what makes them unique and how they can uniquely support the whole organization. So it feels to me that this is another interesting approach to reach that level of understanding of this uniqueness, and then to be able to communicate. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful. So would you
perfect.
like to share more about this? I know that you're
Definitely. I think
okay.
this was an excellent intro. Let's step into some of them steps themselves. So I like talking a little bit about first the outcomes. So over the last 2 years, we've had 16 groups of people participating, either within companies or within training institutions or open groups for individuals. 130 people, 16 groups. And the outcomes of that, the keywords that have been brought up have been reduction of absenteeism, meaning at work, employee engagement, employer brand reputation, of course, sustainable employability, i.e. ways of recreating new jobs within the company and also for the individuals in the future, and of course, increased productivity. So those are the outcomes that we've noticed. And I also like starting with the why. Why is this important in today's world? World Economic Forum study between now and the next 4 years, 50% of employees will need reskilling, and actually 40% of employees keeping their jobs will need reskilling. So this is not just about people leaving their jobs or getting left by their jobs. Even those that keep their jobs, 40% will need reskilling, whilst at the same time, 90%, 89% of people are feeling less well now at work versus before COVID. And this creates a very unbalanced environment where there's a big need for something, but actually there's not necessarily the internal energy and support to be able to do it. If we look a little bit closer here in Switzerland, but it applies to neighboring countries as well, these are the 10 most search after jobs right now, which is around the digital transformation, data analytics, strategic advisors, etc. And these are actually the 10 most made redundant jobs, of which the first was actually accountant bookkeeping. 4,000 years ago in Egyptian times, accountant was a very, very highly regarded trade, right? It was right at the level of scribe, right underneath actually priests and the pharaoh. So for 4,000 years, this was highly, highly regarded trades, and in literally half a generation, these have now become the most redundant jobs. And for one of the first times in history is actually negative net unemployment, meaning there's more jobs open than actually people looking for jobs. But unluckily, there's a big, big discrepancy between the type of profiles that are looking for jobs and the type of profiles that are being hired. And this has to do with already this reskilling gap, which is noticeable today. So in an environment where people will need to reinvent themselves, where hopefully employers are helping them, but that's not always the case. And some employers believe that this is the employee's responsibility or the state responsibility. So that's a separate conversation. But in an environment where employees will need to reinvent themselves, and at the same time, they're not at the best of their internal strengths, that there's lots of wear out, burnout. We'll talk about that. It's actually a very difficult environment. So this is maybe a little bit of a reminder for those that were already with us last time, but we all have 4 levels of competence. The lowest of level of incompetence, other does these tasks better than me, right? So it's not about being a genius. Everybody has genius zones. We'll talk exactly about what a genius zone is. I've had 130 participants. I haven't met a single one that did not have multiple genius zones. Everybody's identified their genius zones. And at the same time, we'll talk about that. All tasks are a genius zone of somebody. Okay, so there's no task which is not a genius zone of somebody. I'll give some examples later on. So level of incompetence, the lowest. Others do these tasks better than me, and therefore I won't get work here. The next one is actually level of competence. Others can do this too. Actually, I won't get work. Yesterday, actually, I was coaching a very high-end manager that was looking for a new job. He told me he applied for this one job, which he really liked. He was able to go through the first level of selection. They received 300 CVs. 300 CVs for a high-level job, right? Yeah. And you need to make a difference amongst the other people. If you're just as good as everybody else, there's no way statistically you're going to get that job. So there is not and there will not be work. Now, the drama happens in the level of excellence. Here in these tasks, I'm better than other people at those at these specific tasks. But if they don't give me energy, it will always end in wear out, bore out, or burnout. And just because I'm better does not mean I should be doing those. By the way, does not mean the employer should be giving me those tasks, right?
Yeah,
And
and I
because
really like when you talk about this one, because listening to the energy level, and I'm talking about my coaching experience as well, is something so important. Okay, because it really gives you an idea about, are you feeling pressure to deliver? Are you more on the side of not being sure that you can make it happen? So that takes energy. So sometimes we are not fully conscious about that, but this is really key to understand the difference between I mean, from my perspective, from the last two steps, right?
exactly.
Because if you are in your genius zone, and I'm sure you will share more about that, then you enjoy it. You just enjoy it. You are not scared, or fear of not making it happen. It's just, happy to be there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I say I'm actually, when I'm in my genius zone, I'm literally paid to be on vacation. It gives me so much energy, so much meaning. We'll talk about that, okay?
Mhm.
That I enjoy it, and people happen to want to pay me for it. But the second we believe that work has to be hard and it has to be, something we don't want to do, then of course we get stuck in a level of excellence. Basically, there's one level that I believe should be made illegal. That is the level of excellence. And I don't think that anybody should work there. And in particular, employers should become more aware of the difference between level of excellence and level of genius, which is the only sustainable level. There's only one level which is sustainable. This is the level of genius, where I gain energy by doing those tasks. Okay.
And I have a question for you on this one, because it happened to me in the past 2 weeks that I had a lot of coaching discussion around the belief people may have, okay, that to deserve to be paid or to deserve something, a reward, a thank you, etc., you need to work hard.
It has to feel
Yeah.
hard. Yeah, and this belief, this is so destructive. And I know where it comes from the day we start school. Huh? I've had a cours d'appui, including more. I had more lessons on things that I was not good at, extra lessons on things that I was not good at versus those that I was really, really good at. And since the day we start school, we're rewarded actually for this belief that work has to be hard. And once we've understood that that's not at all the case, that it's truly not the case, we have to undo those beliefs. And those are things we work, of course, extensively in our workshop. And I know that you work those in your coachings. And every time I have a coaching, we need to go through this and verify what's the person's belief system. I see, by the way, negative correlation between the level of people are in companies and the time they allow themselves to spend in their genius zones. Why? Because, hundreds or thousands of people want my job. I'm getting paid so well. I'm not going to start saying it's not fun. That's not going to work. Actually, it does work. The trouble with this is by saying that it has to be hard, then the person that starts in the company looks up and says, ooh, if one day I want to have that position, it's going to be really, really hard. Will I even make it? Not because of the competencies, but actually because of, will I be able to endure this long enough to be able to make it? The trouble is once people actually get up there, I meet them, I meet them afterwards. Actually, it's the same question. They're no better off than when they started. They have the impression that finally they would be happy, but actually not. Actually not.
So this is really a key point. Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 levels of competency. Only one is sustainable, the level of genius. And the question is your workforce maximizing their time in their genius zones? That's the question. So let's talk about a little bit the difference between genius zones and zones of excellence. And I want to present this 4-step methodology to maximize the time of employees in their genius zones. So genius zones are very different than zones of excellence. The only thing common about them is that we are better at those tasks than people around us. But otherwise, they're very different. When I'm in my zone of genius, I have more energy afterwards. I'm passionate about it. That passion is contagious, by the way. People recognize there's something going on. It's very easy to do an extra mile. Okay. Actually, I don't even feel like it's an extra mile. And there's a feeling of longing to do it again. Once I've really identified when I'm in my genius zones, my mind, my soul will want to come back. That's actually the reason for which I'm here. Okay.
Yeah.
So if I can identify with that and understand, otherwise we get stuck in, I have good days, I have bad days. I don't understand the correlation, and I hope I'm just going to have a good day. But actually in the evening, well, it might have been good or bad. But my participants, once they understand what are their genius zones, they see this correlation, they say, okay, now, when it's a bad day, I know it's because I spent too much time in my zones of excellence. And they can really differentiate and take action on that.
Yeah.
We revisit the whole checklist below. We'll actually share a full checklist with you, but these are maybe the 4 most important parts. I want you as participants to not just think about these for yourself, which of course is very useful, but also about your employees. Think that if your employees, your direct reports, the people you manage in the company, the people for which you're responsible in the company, if they had more energy after the task, if they were more passionate about it, if it was easy for them to do an extra mile, if they really had this feeling of longing of doing it again, can we see those connections to the exact hashtags that are coming across the screen right now that we mentioned before? And this, once we understand that, that connection becomes automatic. So the first step, it's a 4-step process, is to identify the employee's genius zones. And that we'll go through a short description of the methodology. I also recommend the managers, by the way, because there's a trickle-down effect that employees will already have a very big effect. And here, the interesting part is, for us individually, we are oblivious to our own genius zones. We are oblivious because they're so easy for us. We believe that everybody else can do them. And because they give us so much energy, we don't believe it's really hard work. So when we actually get those tasks, we actually try to spend more time in the tasks that are more hard work, because work should be hard. That's often the common belief. And here, I've tried 10, literally 10 different methodologies to source these genius zones. And by far the most efficient is to ask people around us, because they will see things that are so easy for us that actually are difficult for them. And it should be friends, it should be current colleagues, it should be past colleagues. We have a full methodology here. There's even an example of a template of an email that, of course, you can adjust. It's people around us that can give us these things that seem very easy for us, but actually are difficult for them. Now, the trouble is, they will see things that seem easy for us, but they don't really know if they drain or give us energy. They can kind of have an idea, but it's actually very difficult to know. I met my wife in around the personal development area, and we've been together for 14 years now. And I can tell her zones of excellence and genius together, but I couldn't differentiate them for her. So the difference maybe with other methodologies is sourcing is always from the outside. I was completely oblivious, and our participants are oblivious to their own genius zones, okay? But the differentiation between excellence and genius, this only we can do. Nobody else can know if this brings us meaning, passion, energy, longing of doing it again. So to filter those out, we actually have this checklist here, which is part of this analysis, .geniuslife.me. We'll share all the links afterwards. But here, you receive those feedbacks from people around you. You put them in this methodology through a table. And at the end, it's very, very important to use a checklist and to look for every single zone here. Is it genius or is it excellent? And here the checklist applies. It's part of the methodology. We'll share it with you. And I recommend, by the way, even before you really understand what your genius zones are, for each task, like each hour per working day, start measuring. Do you have more energy afterwards? Does time become fluid? Is it a personal fulfillment? Do I prioritize or do I procrastinate these? And go through the list. And it's basically binary, huh? If it's 1, 2, 3 out of 12, or 12, 11, 10 out of 12. If it's in the middle, this means the task needs to be subdivided. For example, one of my participants was talking about project management. He couldn't really see, it was half and half. That's because we needed to divide project management. There were certain tasks within project management that gave him energy, certain tasks within project management that reduced his energy. So once you divide, it becomes binary. If it's two balanced, you simply need to divide. It's like chemistry, right, Christine?
Yeah, I think what you say is very important, is that you have to achieve a certain level of granularity for yourself to get clarity. Okay, so this is very personal. Huh?
Exactly.
So we often say in coaching, you are either clear or not clear. Okay, so if it's not clear for you, it means you are not at the level of granularity which resonates for you. So it makes sense. This is a feeling, saying, yeah. You sense it when you are clear.
Exactly.
Some energy or some connection, alignment inside. So it's really your heart talking. Yes, this is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is very important. This level of clarity, and for me, and let me know if this is what you have in mind, Andre. It's really answering the why, okay, the internal values, connecting with the internal values and motivation, which are very unique to you.
Exactly.
Making the link in yourself between the skills, the natural talents, and the why. Yeah.
Exactly. That's wonderful description. Yeah, exactly. For me, it's like chemistry. At one point, if you have some type of material, you're not quite sure what it is, you divide it, divide it. At one point, you have atoms, okay? All
Mhm.
atoms of oxygen, wherever they are in the universe, they react the same way. So here, if you're unsure, that simply means you need to cut. At one point, it will become atomic. There's atoms of oxygen or hydrogen or whatever, and they behave the same way.
Mhm.
So that's a good way of using the checklist. Then once this is everything else until now was done at the individual level, right? And couldn't be done, by the way, across teams, just one person in a team. But at one point, if you really want to do this at team level, you need to create a catalog of the tasks needed within each team. And I want to be very clear here. This is somewhat related to the job description, but actually often there's tasks which are informal, which are in the end just as important to get the team running. We'll talk later on about a concrete example with one of my participants who implemented this within her team, and how actually the informal tasks were actually at least as important as the formal tasks, and how she was able to rebalance tasks within a team without even changing the job descriptions. Okay, it was an environment where she could not adapt the job descriptions between yearly reviews, and she didn't want to wait until the end of the year to have that happen. So actually, she was able to rebalance the informal tasks, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in her example. So create a catalog of tasks needed within each team. Here I've taken the basis of a job description, but make sure indeed that these take into account informal tasks. And on top of that, this is where I often get the questions. But by the way, this is really interactive. Don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat. I really enjoy live. I'll jump into those questions. We can answer them if you have doubts. You can challenge me as well. I love being challenged live. I really think it brings a lot of value. So what if one task is nobody's genius zone? So I always get this question. We go through the catalog. There's this one task. Nobody wants to do it. It drains energy from everybody. And basically the premise is, okay, so this methodology doesn't work. Well, actually not. Just because there's one task that may not be somebody's genius zone within the current team right now. I have two answers to that. One, it will already be a huge improvement compared to today. We'll see the average time that people spend in their genius zones is so low that actually simply exchanging my zone of excellence with Christine's zones of excellence, so we can both spend more time in our zones of genius, will have an immediate effect on the motivation of the team, the output of the team, the gelling of the team atmosphere, etc. So even if one task were nobody's genius zone, it won't actually stop the whole methodology from making a big improvement. And the corollary of that is, I've never ever seen a task which is nobody's genius zone anywhere. I'm sure somebody else in the company will be their genius zone, or in the worst case, you can rebalance and actually hire somebody for this genius zone. Even what might seem the most menial tasks to some people, I gave this same content in another in another webinar, and one lady intervened and he said, I was managing a restaurant, and this guy, his genius zone was doing the dishes. And I could not stop. I had to force him to take breaks. He gave him so much energy to do dishes. And
Yeah.
some people might not see that as the most important job, but for him, it was really, really his genius zone. And actually, once I started paying attention to genius zones, the three people I can say that were the most, just lightening up the whole room around them were people in tasks which might not seem the most difficult to accomplish or the most respected in society, but they really, really connected to that, and maybe weren't as polluted by, I spent so much time studying for this and so many years trying to attain this position. I'm not going to say it's not fun. Okay, so in cases like that, actually, every task there will be a genius zone for somebody. I had a manager. Go ahead, Christine.
Yeah, I think you highlight also what we name transferable, skills usually, but here, linked to what you shared, I believe it's like transferable talents or, genius, because, everything, at least this is my perspective. When you feel energy about something, it's because it's connected with a value, something very important for you. So, I can, for example, I can be really on the top of the world because I am, whenever I'm talking with someone, I am on the top of the world. So,
I love it.
it doesn't matter, it could be one person, could be here, alive, could be with a team later in the day. So whenever I have this exchange, this connection, which is a very important value for me, I'm happy. So, if I find connection with doing the dishes, then, I can be very happy and sing and enjoy it. So it's really for me like finding in everything we do the meaning, the link with our values. What do you think about?
Exactly. And maybe let's spend 30 more seconds on this person doing the dishes. See, if this person said, I love doing the dishes, but actually it's not, I'll play this backwards, okay, from the usual way. I love doing the dishes, but actually there's no job that's really just doing dishes, so I can only do this in my hobby. So when I'm at home, I cook, I do the dishes, I go to my friends, I do the dishes, I work in the football club, and actually then afterwards I can do the dishes. This is exactly what most people do, except it's not doing the dishes. It's spending more time in their genius zone outside of work than what they do in work. And as we can see, doing the dishes, it is actually a job, which was highly appreciated. I'm sure this restaurant manager was so happy and did everything they could to keep this person. Yeah. So transfer this to your own world. And I'm taking the extreme example the other way to show how applicable it can be. And everything will be somebody's genius zone. Okay? Maybe not the person in your team right now, but there will be a person that would really, really find meaning for that. And another point, what if an employee wants to leave their position because actually they discover that they're not spending enough time, or they're really worn out, bored out, or burn out? Okay, one, they don't necessarily need to leave their position. Okay, this is not about suddenly becoming independent, although of course it applies very well to becoming independent, but not everybody going through this needs to become independent or change jobs, or change employer, or even change position. By swapping, bartering tasks within the same team, we will automatically increase the time we spend in our genius zones. First thing. Second thing, even if the employee is really, really discouraged and does want to leave, I don't believe that just having a person matching the job description in a team is going to make that whole team efficient. Maybe it's better for that person and for the team itself that this person does find another position elsewhere in the company or within another company, because otherwise this creates cynicism. And cynicism is contagious, and cynicism is very, very difficult to get rid of. So I truly believe that we're highly responsible for having the right people in the right positions, and the genius zones is definitely one way, a very effective way of identifying what those positions should be and maximizing the time that we spend in them.
And I like the way you make the link with leadership and the link with the genius zone and energy. because I believe that, leading is about creating an environment where there is high energy, right? So
Exactly.
uh, coming from the individuals and exponentially developing, right? So there is
Exactly.
it's attractive to, I often say, people like to rush to the meeting room, right? They like to be together because they feel good and they can see the progress in the discussion and the action and the delivery pretty naturally because it comes from this happiness to be together and just enjoy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I really like it. Yeah, you described that so well. Exactly. So once we have the catalog, then there's something about reallocating tasks. And again, remember, these are tasks formal and informal. The biggest differences from what I observe actually comes from the informal tasks, which are not even in the job descriptions, but they should still be part of the catalog. And one way to do this is to use this methodology where we actually action the employee's genius zones. There's a 5-step path from where we are right now. So there's a whole, if you go to the link, actually, there's a whole user guide on how to do this step by step. There's where we are now, the start, where we want to arrive. Both need to be measurable. And we actually put in place 3, 4, 5 steps to be able to do that. One step would probably be, if you do this as an individual, to go and talk to your manager, and then maybe to the HR manager or learning development manager to be able to implement this. Now, if you do this as a team, of course, the steps are somewhat emphasized here. But at one point, you need to start exchanging, maybe put in place weekly meetings of half an hour. It doesn't have to be long, where you discuss how much time did I spend last week in my genius zones. Well, I'll share a method to measure that. And is this enough? Is this good enough for the team? Is this good enough for me? Is this good enough for my future employability within this company in this particular position? And once we start measuring, one thing I really like about management is what we measure, we do maximize, we do attain.
Mhm.
And once we start measuring, very quickly, that number actually will increase, whatever it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think this is very important to have this measure because otherwise it stays vague, let's say, in the mind. It's
Exactly.
a hope, a willingness, a dream. If you want to, to really translate it into reality, it's about, checking, assessing, reflecting
Exactly.
without judgment, with curiosity, and say, okay, oh, today I spent only 10% in my genius zone. Okay, what do I learn about myself? Being in curiosity to understand what triggers this, this focus on one aspect or the other. So that's how we make progress. It's about learning about ourselves. Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. Learning and measuring. What's good here is to take something that's measurable. It can be a percentage of time in the genius zone. It could be something else, but it
Mhm.
needs to be measurable. Otherwise, in the end, it just exactly as you say, it remains some type of vague concept. But actually, it's could be kind of a dream to attain. But so what? Dreams are good, but how do we get there, right?
Mhm.
And this methodology here was developed by one of our participants who found that her genius zone was drawing and was able to monetize it very quickly, actually. And drawing, perfect example, drawing, okay, that's something you do in your spare time, and usually you pay to take a drawing course, right? Or you pay to be able to do a workshop. Now she's getting paid to be able to do this and is very, very effective at it. That's a very good example.
Mhm.
So I'd like to add one bonus step. We talked a lot about measurements and measure success with team employee time that team employees spend in their genius zones. And here we use this tracker, which is literally hour by hour during working days, and anything that has to do related to work. And here, what we see is that on average, it's 15 to 20% of people's time in their genius zones, which is awful, huh? No company would survive for more than a couple of months with any such bad utilization of any other resources. Try
Mhm.
paying your employees 6 times more. Try using 1/6 of their time. Try
Mhm.
using 1/6 of the space that you rent. Try paying 6 times more rent for the space you have. You're not going to survive. But
So
yet,
this
with the most important assets, and even more so as we go forward, the assets are not the buildings anymore. It's not the machinery. That's a commodity in today's world. The relationship you have with your employees, that's what really makes you difference. That's where you have high performance teams. And with the most important asset, suddenly it's not a problem that people waste so much time outside of their genius zones with known consequences. And by the way, even if you were to only look at productivity, when people are truly in their genius zones versus their zones of excellence, I'm not even talking about the other zones, we are 2 to 3 times, not 2 to 3%, 2 to 3 times, plus 100, plus 200% more efficient. And it doesn't tire us. It doesn't tire us. So we can do this without risking bore out or burnout.
So I believe it's very important for the audience for the people who are listening to keep in mind, right? It's really looking at, tracking this and then checking for yourself what makes you focus on something else than your genius zone. Often it's linked to a belief, as we discussed before. Okay, so if you have the belief that you need to work hard to deserve, to enjoy life, for example, then you will naturally not focus on the genius zone. So that's really important to have this measurement, to have this understanding, and then you will decide if you want to work on it, because that can change really your whole life. Yeah.
Completely. Yes. I've seen so many people, myself included, of course, but so many people making major life improvements without necessarily changing employers, without necessarily even changing positions within those, but it just redefines the way they work, and their rapport with work, and is contagious. That's very important. I love giving this example of that I mentioned before of Esther Uti. So she during COVID went from General Electric to ABB, and she took over a team. She works in pricing, and she took over a team that she could not even meet in person. So it's really difficult time, and she had to gel with this team and have the team together gel. She needed to hire new people, and she'd understood for herself the power of genius zones. But she actually used the genius zones within her team to gel, empower, and engage her team. Again, in difficult times, taking over a team during COVID, not being able to see them. And very quickly, the members specialized in skills that energized them. I'll give one example. Their pricing team, they actually had spreadsheets to create prices for internal and external clients. And one person loved to do templates, okay? He loved to develop tools. It was not part of his job description. Nobody had developed a template in their job description. But he took one of the tools and created a template, a superset of all the functionality of everybody else. And what happened? He loved doing it, but his colleagues then finally were able to use something that was consistent. Their boss, Esther, now had a consistent view created in the same way. But the outside stakeholders, their internal clients, suddenly had a concrete, regular way of looking at the information the same way. And then, of course, the outside clients that would receive the result of this pricing, their work was made easier. And what I really like about this example is this was not in anybody's job description, but yet had to be done. But because she was able to identify this, everybody won. The person, his colleagues, the manager, the internal stakeholders and clients, the external stakeholders and clients. So all 5 parties won just by one small change. Then there was other informal things which were not in the job description that she was able to do something similar. And this, of course, had a strong effect on the team itself, but actually very quickly, internally within the company, people started asking Esther, what's the deal here? You just arrived. What's going on in your team? You didn't even see them. Come on. So then she could start working on this concept and explaining it to others. But of course, externally, also even to the outside of the company, it had an effect. And again, this is an environment where she could not redefine the job descriptions, and nobody had to leave or to hire. They didn't rotate personnel to get this result. It was the people she already had.
Yeah, so what I like in this story personally, and please for those who are listening also share your comments, is that there is an aspect of expressing naturally your talent without sometimes even specific expectations, because it feels right to you. And then things happen because people recognize it, so they reach to you for asking, something similar, or they observe a difference, they observe an added value. So also this, this not forcing yourself, to achieve a specific result, but just being there with who you are, can be enough to make a difference. Largely enough, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I think you summarized that so well. I didn't share these slides with you beforehand, but I think you get what I was about to say. When we maximize the time spent in our genius zones, the days are lighter and work much more enjoyable. I get paid to be on vacation, right? To that level of enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
That's for us, okay? But as a team manager, that's great for the employee. Of course, you'll have higher employee engagement, all the things we talked about before. But actually, those around us see a powerful difference and will recommend us for tasks that we really appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the magic really starts picking on, because it's not just for us.
Yeah.
If I spend time in my genius zone, it actually helps people around me, all other stakeholders in the company. And that's where the real magic plays out.
Exactly. So that's really, I believe, something very important to keep in mind, is that by being yourself naturally, without putting any barrier in terms of pretending to be someone else because you believe that you will be better appreciated, or this kind of belief, by just being yourself, because you were created like this, so there must be a reason, right?
Exactly.
So just accepting yourself, and showing yourself as you are, and enjoying being yourself, helps people to really see you, and then create ideas about how can I use these talents. So this happens pretty naturally, right? So that's why we say in coaching, when you are yourself, you will get paid for being yourself, or for expressing yourself. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Exactly. How much time do we still have left, Christine?
Yeah, we have a few minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah, the time is passing by very
Time's flying. That's a sign, right?
Yes.
We're having fun. It's excellent. Maybe we can open up a conversation with the participants. How did what we discussed here apply to you personally? And of course, how also does it apply to your teams? Because the influence you'll have within your company goes way beyond just yourself, which will have already a halo effect. But if you can start implementing this within companies, there's something really strong that happens. And when we look up at people that implement this, people above us, then there's a trickle-down effect automatically across the whole company.
Yeah, that's a really great question, and I encourage you to either share now, or later on, looking at the recording, we will continue to engage with you. Yeah, I think it's be curious. I also like what you share here. Be curious. I often make the link between the easy road of life, where you are in curiosity most of the day, and from time to time only you apply judgment because you have to analyze something, you have to make a decision, okay? Instead of being on judgment all day. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but most of the day, and then only in curiosity a few times during the day. That makes a whole difference. So, and the link in my mind between that is the reason why people are not so much in curiosity. It's linked to beliefs, okay? So believing that judgment is a protective way to ensure that things will go as planned. So this is a link with the control. And again, if we control, we can't be fully ourselves, okay? So to enjoy life is really about being open to what's gonna happen, enjoy what's there, use it purposefully. So being in curiosity, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna talk with Andre this morning. I know a little bit what we are gonna talk about. I know it's about team efficiency and employee engagement. and I am in curiosity because I don't know where the discussion will lead us. Okay, so I can
Mm,
really be present, enjoy, and learn, effortless, right? And
mm,
sensing the energy to be in discussion here and with the other around. So nice, yeah. Okay,
mm, mm.
wonderful. So yeah, let's continue this discussion. Actually, we had a plan, a third live together, Andre, on Thursday, May 12 at
Mhm,
8:30 CET. And we already thought about a topic which is the barriers that stop spending time in the genius zone. And I think that's
mhm,
a very important topic.
mhm.
I have a last question for you. Uh, what are your priorities for the next weeks or the next months?
Yeah, the methodology that we've collectively created with all the feedback from the participants so far, I see it has such a strong transformative effect on people, on their environment, their work environment, on their professional well-being, on their personal well-being. My goal is to really maximize the number of people that can apply this in their own lives and make those changes. So that's going to be my, already is, it's going to be my continued goal for the upcoming months. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So for those who are interested to know more, to connect with Andre, you can connect at geniuslife.me. Yeah, is it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Geniuslife.me, exactly.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, so yeah, we are already at the end of this new discussion. It was really a pleasure again. Thank you so much for this presentation. It was very insightful.
Mm,
For me, it's for sure I've seen that before, but it's really each time another way to look at it. And for those who are listening, I hope it was really bringing some inspiration, some question for you, and that you will be able to apply during your day to feel better and to have more impact. Okay, so as I said, we will talk again next month. I also want to tell people listening that next Thursday at 6 p.m. CET, I will have the pleasure to interview Tim Hughes on how to capitalize on social selling. So these are, as you know, in this live, really this topic of how to transform, problems into opportunity, how to look at leadership in different ways. So yeah, I hope you will join, and thank you for your appreciation. Yeah, so this is one sign of appreciation, and you can also, as I said, continue to share appreciation, comments, questions, challenges, afterwards. Okay, so I hope you have a very good day and stay connected.
mhm.
Thank you, Andre.
Thank you very much. Thanks you to all of you. Bye bye. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.